hours now, so let me know how this streaming schedule is like. I guess a lot of Europeans must be in the chat. I do see a couple of familiar faces like Midwest Finest, but also a lot of new individuals. Let me know if the sound is okay. By the way, did you guys see what Disney did to Snow White? Holy shit. Snow White and the 7 diverse individuals is what they call it. And I want you to play this game, okay? Like, listen. I need you to play this game. Let me see if I can show. Alright. So let's do this. Get in your room, right? In your bedroom. A person that doesn't know about politics. Your mother, for example, or your grandma, or someone like that, you know? And ask them, what movie do you think this is? Okay? Just ask them that. Like, just go and like, what do you think this scene is from? And then watch how they react when you tell them that it's Snow White. I'm not kidding. Like, I legitimately thought that this is a joke when I first... But no. This is from Snow White. I mean, it's an interesting take. What can I say? I always wanted for this, you know? Like, ever since I was a kid, I was like, you know what I want? A live adaptation of Snow White. You would think they would cast like a person that has anemia, that lacks all the red blood cells so that they can be white as the snow. But no. 1 year of buyer's remorse. Thank you, Omega Tau. At work right now. Here's my tip for my shift. Why, thank you, Midwest Finest. I appreciate it. It's interesting because I thought like they casted the lady who played Wonder Woman as the evil stepmother, and at this point like they kind of, I mean, they can't go with the original story, right? Because like she was jealous that Snow White is more beautiful than she is, so that's like what causes all the drama. That's what's that. But there's no fucking way that this current Snow White is more beautiful than the lady who plays Wonder Woman. Like, she's not even in the same... It's like putting me and Mike Tyson in the ring, and then suggesting that I'm stronger than Mike Tyson. Like, that's immersion breaking. No one is going to believe that. So, yes. 1 second. Sorry about that. But yes, the villainess is Jewish. I know. But she's sexy. She's sexier than Snow White. This is a problem. The mirror got brown fever. That is a good observation. Yeah, that is the only explanation. It's like the mirror lied to the woman. The mirror bullshitted the evil queen. But yes. What can I say? You know, like, Disney is continuing to surprise me. There is just one movie that they refuse to make a remake, but I'm pretty sure like one day they will. Tarzan. I want to see Disney cast a black man to play Tarzan. That would be so ESG friendly. That would make Klaus Schwab happy. And Klaus Schwab would smile if Disney casts Tarzan. Wasn't Snow White like 14 years old? Man, like back in medieval time, most people were already having children at 14 years old. I mean, you used to have arranged marriages since the age of 6 or 7, if we're talking about medieval time. And then, you know, when you entered puberty, you already had a wife. But the downside was that there were wars, military services. There weren't many treatment for things like appendicitis, diseases, illnesses. So people didn't live very long. But you had to have children early. Anyway. This is definitely a time to stream. It is. Vin Diesel as Tarzan? No, man. It has to be a black person for diversity. You need to raise up those ESG scores. Will Smith needs to be Tarzan. Anyway. I mean, he does have the levels of aggression there, right? Like, he did go to Chris Rock and, like, smack. So, he is very masculine. Doesn't really care about social barriers. I mean, you know, because Tarzan was raised in the jungle, so he doesn't know it's not okay to slap comedians. Don't tell comedians to dodge the slap. Teach Tarzan not to slap comedians. Anyway, imagine making a black person Tarzan. Well, yes, it has to. I mean, Disney has established a trend. I cannot enjoy a Disney movie unless they race swap. It's like best actor for the job unless the actor is white. Then he can't get the job. I thought that Vin was a light-skinned fella. No, that's the point. You can't cast a white person as the lead role. Are you crazy? No, it's gotta raise those ESG scores. How can you make Black Rock happy? I mean, it's in the fucking name. It's Black Rock. You need a black Tarzan, yes. Like black people should feel represented as well. Disney, make it happen. Hopefully a trans woman as well. I mean, when are they going to cast a trans woman? Huh? Anyway, right, let's look to Ben Shappiro. He reacts to shit. Tell me how the sound is like. Hold on. I need to shrink this a little bit.
Carlson and Andrew Tate that's getting all sorts of attention. It has 25, 30 million views.
Isn't that interesting, right? Like, they would want to cancel Andrew Tate despite the fact that there's 25 million people watching. So, like, in other words, 25 million people should not be allowed to watch what they want. Because someone higher up is more smart, more wise, more intelligent. Wouldn't it be nice? You know, like, these censors never have faces. Did you notice that? Like, every single time a video gets struck down for terms of search violation, you don't see the face of the person that does it. I want to see the person who thinks is more smarter and more wiser than 25 million people. It's like, yes, I get to decide that 25 million people should not watch this because reasons. But we never get that, right? It's like censorship is always hidden. It's always behind the veil of corporate speak. Sound is fine. Okay, yeah. And by the way, regarding Andrew Tate, I will say it right now. I do agree with some of the things that he is saying, but the solutions, completely disagree. I do not want my son to have a life where he quote-unquote fucks bitches and drives expensive cars while smoking cigars. You know, like it's not necessarily the wholesome life that I would have planned for my child. I would hope that he only has sex with one woman, which is his wife, and then starts a family. But, you know, it is what it is. Want to buy one Twitter follow, paying for Discord invite. Well, contact me on Twitter, Jack Jones. I can't help you right now. Just DM me on either account, and I'll fix it. Morning V-stream in the middle of my script. How convenient. Also, I talked to my wife, to my aunt about Little Mermaid. She said why they did that, but didn't care. And when I told her we should have Ethan Hawke play Zulu, she laughed and said you have a point. Yeah, see, this is the thing. Like, when you talk with people that aren't ideologues, they can be reasonable if you actually make good arguments. But show your aunt this, alright? Like, show your aunt this, and then ask her, what movie does she think this is from? Alright? Like, ask her, where do you think this is from? And if she doesn't know, tell her it's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Right? Like, it's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and then she's going to ask if you're bullshitting her, and you say, Auntie, I would never. But this is what raises the ESG scores. This is what makes Klaus Schwab happy. This is what BlackRock wants. This is the future BlackRock has planned for our entertainment. Like, how can we not? You know, black people working in the mine. I mean, okay. Alright, you know? This gentleman doesn't seem to be quite happy. I knew that this was fucked the moment Peter Dinklage started moaning about it, and the moment Disney decided to listen to Peter Dinklage's moans. So Peter Dinklage, a man you wouldn't have heard of if it wasn't for Game of Thrones, who literally got the role because Tyrion Lannister is a dwarf, and Peter Dinklage got the role in order to play that, right? And he got rich. He became a millionaire because of it. He got very famous. So what does he decide to do? He decides to moan about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and basically takes away the job opportunity of 7 actors. So 7 actors could have got the role, But no, because Peter Dinklage didn't want to. This is literally the definition of kicking down the ladder from other people. But anyway, right. Why do I even bother? It is what it is. Let's watch Ben Shappiro.
Over at Twitter, it's the biggest episode of Tucker's show that he's done on Twitter for probably a couple of months. And it's fascinating. It's really, really long. It's like 2.5 hours long. So we pulled a few of the clips to analyze them. Here's a little bit of it.
It's a very uncertain situation to be picked up on just before New Year's Eve and thrown in a cell without charge. And I'm asking different prison guards and different prisoners, how long am I going to be here? One person was like, I've been here 2 years. I was like, have you been charged? He goes, yeah, but I haven't gone to court yet.
Right, but the thing is, this is why I don't like certain things with Andrew Tate, right? Like, he comes to Romania, and literally all life he says he likes the country because it's corrupt. Like, it's what he says, you know, like, that's very disrespectful, Andrew. Very disrespectful coming into my country, like, when the United Kingdom is sending people, they're not sending their best, you know? Like, how would you like it if I came to your house and I said something like that? You know, the reason I like Andrew Tate's house is because it's so easy to commit crimes here. It's not very respectful, is it? But you know, moving past, I understand, you know, like, he got in trouble with the daughter of a politician. Sorry, with the politician himself. I think, like, this may be one of the reasons that they're looking into him. Like, this went viral. So the daughter of the politician was 16. This is actually legal in Romania. But apparently he sent her a strawberry on Instagram, right? The strawberry emoji. Like, this is legit, right? The guy, this is the daughter of a sitting politician. Do you not think that if you believe, like, let's assume it's true what you say, that this is a very corrupt country. Do you think this is very smart, Andrew? Like, you know? And then it's like, without charge. Yes, most nations around the world can hold you without charge. Japan can hold you for 1 year. Like, this is the standard, world fucking wide. Basically, and he actually goes to say this, if they believe you can hamper the investigation because you're rich, because you're well connected, they will keep you locked up while they're investigating so you don't fucking flee the country if you're a flight risk. They do this in the United States, except they charge you. But, like, okay, so you get charged, but you can't get out of prison because they won't let you out on bail because you're a flight risk. Or you don't get charged and you still stay there until the investigation is over. What is the difference? What is the difference? I don't know. But anyway, right, so what's going to happen is that this is going to go to court. If Andrew is found innocent, they will pay damages for the time he spent in prison, right? And by the way, like, the damages that the Romanian government will pay are quite significant. Like, he might get paid millions of dollars. If he's found guilty, he goes to prison. But there is going to be a court, right? So there's going to be a court hearing. It's going to go to trial. The way he makes it sound is that there's no reason whatsoever. It's like the guys just went after him. Doesn't know why. Okay, we'll see. Why do people want their kids to be Amish? What is on about? Like, oh, now it's updated. Never had Twitter. 27 days till I can pay to verify. Well, how can I help you then? I can't give you my account here, so.
Like, everyone's been there for years. I thought it was going to be there for years, and it certainly takes a mental toll on you.
Yeah, but it happens in America, by the way. Like this is not something that's happening only in Romania. Like, you can get convicted for something in America, and your court date may take a while until it's there. And in the meantime, the prosecutor keeps trying to convince you to get a deal so that you plead guilty. Like, they don't do this in Romania. I think, like, the Romanian system is a lot better from this point of view.
And I think jail is a different experience when you know you're innocent. There was a guy in there for murder. He's like, yeah, I murdered someone, I'm in jail. You can your soul and your mind can accept the punishment for a crime. But when you've actually done nothing wrong, I think jail is a lot harder.
I mean, one of the things that makes Tate sort of an interesting person and character is this tough-minded approach that he projects toward everything. Now, as far as the actual specificity of the charges, my understanding is that his characterization of the charges is not what the Romanian government is saying what the charges are. You would expect that, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and by the way, there were leaked transcripts and leaked records, and it's going to be an interesting case trial. I'll tell you that.
Defending himself, so it's not a giant shock that his account of the charges is somewhat different than theirs. And there are also some civil suits against him in Britain regarding sexual assault and all the rest. I'm sure the details of this are going to come out.
The legal system is terrible all over the world. Doesn't make it less terrible in Romania. No, but the way he frames it is like and I've seen a lot of fans of Andrew Tate. They're trying to frame it like Romania is a banana republic. It's like, okay, but you decided to come here, and you're the one that said, oh, well, this is such a corrupt nation. Of course, no legal system is going to be perfect, but like compared to the one from the United States, I don't see it having just so many differences. Let's put it like this. In fact, I would say that there are certain advantages to the Romanian system, like the plea deal, right? The plea deal is horrible in the U.S., so you can be innocent, and you can have like the prosecutor to say, oh, well, if this goes to trial, you can get like 30 years or some shit. And if you're young and impressionable and can't afford a lawyer, you may go like, okay, well, I'll plead guilty just so you leave me the fuck alone. It's a lot easier to put innocent people in prison in the United States just by like having them plead guilty so that they take the plea deal. You can't do this in Romania. Like, I like the fact that you can't. So that everyone gets a court date. Everyone goes to trial. It's a lot more fair, in my opinion.
Over time. But he was held in jail for a couple of months. And then he was released, but he is still undercharging. So, again, the outcome is...
He's not released. He's under house arrest. Like, they can't keep you without charge for more than 6 months in prison. And after that, you go under house arrest. So, he's not technically released. Like, he can't leave the country. He can't leave the city. He can't even leave his house. So, no, he's technically still under jail. And if he gets punished, like, let's say he gets, like, 1 year in prison... The time he spends in his own house is considered as jail time. So, he went 6 months in prison. Let's say that he goes 6 months under house arrest. And he gets like 2 years in prison. He only has to serve 1 year.
Less than assured.
What is the Matrix?
There's something about paper.
Oh my god. Alright. Oh, hold on.
Good question. I guess some Americans call it the deep state, but I like to look at it in a more global way. When I say the matrix, I think there are certain agendas which are being pushed. I think the media machine and the judicial systems of the world work together hand in hand. I think the goal is to control people's minds to a point where they don't discuss anything that's important.
Now, again, a lot of what he is saying right here is true, Andrew Tate.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt with the fact that the mainstream media and politicians are oftentimes working hand in hand. I mean, look at what happens when there's a war. COVID, best example. Like no one from the mainstream media was actually questioning any of the narratives. Everyone was, and it was so ridiculous, especially like during the Black Lives Matter protests. Like that's when the mainstream media, if it was like legit peoples of the press, they would have talked about it. But like one day you're supposed to stay at home and stay safe. And you have like a couple of right-wingers going on the Capitol Hill and protesting the shutdown of businesses. They're labeled terrorists by the mainstream media. Just because like they were defying, the social distancing and they were doing a protest. Okay, so that's one day. The next day, you have like the Black Lives Matter thing. And the mainstream media encourages everyone to go outside in order to march for civil rights and shit, right? And then Joe Biden gets elected. Everyone is now back inside. And the mainstream media is like, well, now we need to stay home and stay safe because you're killing grandma. I mean, the very notion that there isn't collusion between politicians and the mainstream media is ridiculous. I agree with this take.
I mean, there is an overwhelming consensus between members of the media and members of the government and members of corporate America. And that's true globally as well. And they can create a narrative that just is not true. We saw this with the Trump-Russia narrative. We saw this with the idea that everyone, including small children, had to be vaxxed for COVID or everyone was going to die and all of the rest. He's not wrong about that. Yeah, I think that he over-attributes to the Matrix. In other words, every symptomatic failure is obviously attributable to the Matrix.
Yeah, like for example, the fact that he's being prosecuted because he stands against the Matrix is something that I don't believe. And the reason I don't believe is that Andrew Tate is not running for office, as far as I know. He's not saying certain things that other people aren't saying. Like none of the things he said on Tucker Carlson are things that aren't being said on the Daily Wire. I just do not see him like he wants to paint himself as a political dissident, but like all his takes are shared by other people. Like I would find it difficult to see what exactly he is saying that Jordan Peterson would not say, you know? But it's more likely, like if you want to say that he's being persecuted, which, again, I don't think so, because I looked at his court case, at the leaked transcripts and everything that was out in the Romanian press. But, like, if he's being persecuted, it's more likely because he was fucking around with, like, trying to show, well, not trying, showing a strawberry emoji to the daughter of a sitting politician. Like, that's... Even, and by the way, yes, it's legal. I do get it, it's legal. But, like, imagine this. Imagine that you have a 16-year-old daughter, and Andrew Tate shows her the strawberry emoji. And you know that his business revolves around getting women to make videos on the internet. How do you feel? Like, do you feel happy? Like, right? Like you as the father. Now imagine you're a politician and you can pull some strings. It's like, hey, can you look into this guy? Like, can you see if you don't find anything problematic with him? Because he's being a little bit annoying. This is what I think is more likely to have happened, given the fact that I know my car. I'm not saying that this has happened, but it's an opinion of mine. Red Pill needs to abandon Tate. He is breaking down the movement. He is likely to be found guilty, and critics will say that Red Pillers are traffickers. I don't know. It is possible that he will be found guilty. Popularity matters. There's other people more popular. The Daily Wire is far more popular than Andrew Tate. The Daily Wire is like the right-wing version of Walt Disney. It's a massive corporation. I feel more bad for Ice Poseidon than Tate. Yeah, like Ice Poseidon, I generally feel bad. Like the guy literally couldn't have seen it coming. So I made a video about it. You guys should check it out on my channel.
Matrix. So it's again, I think that there is such a thing as middle-level bureaucracy in the United States government who are responsible for doing bad things. Does that mean that every bad thing that happens is attributable to that middle-level bureaucracy? I don't think so. But
The Wire is not an individual in Romania. No, but like the people that work at the Daily Wire are individuals, right? So you have Matt Walsh, you have Ben Shappiro, Candace Owens. Like there's other individuals that are far more influential than Andrew Tate.
His overall take that there are forces at work that are consolidated with one another and pursuing certain narratives. Obviously, that's true, and that's one of the reasons his message is popular.
Why do you think support for the war in Ukraine, support for Ukraine's side in the war against Russia, support for a war against Russia in the West, is kind of the bottom line issue for the people who run the U.S. government and for the American media? Why? I mean,
do you know, like, if you actually say why, people will hate you. But it's the truth. Like, if I actually say to Americans why, I think, like, a lot of Americans would be shocked. And if you say why, like if I were to say why 40 years ago, all Americans would be like, oh, no, that's a good thing. The reason is very simple. In order to maintain America's way of life, like in order to maintain the same standard and the same way of living that Americans have today, America has to be the world hegemon. Like, if America isn't the world hegemon, if it's not controlling the trade routes, if it's not able to bully its opposition by setting tariffs, by preventing supplies from boycotting and shit like that, if you can't do that, then the way of life of the American citizen goes down dramatically. Because without America as a world hegemon, you will have someone else. Whether that is China, Russia, Iran, you know, it depends. Maybe you have like other coalitions. But it would be very bad for America. So when you have like someone like Russia deciding to do a political blunder and invade Ukraine, if America manages to economically damage Russia by keeping this thing and going and sending weapons and military gear, then American soldiers don't have to die. I think it was like Dan Crenshaw, the one with that's missing an eye, the politician, the right-wing politician. He literally said it out loud. Like, he was on Fox News, and he said it out loud. It's like, well, we are supporting Ukraine so that American soldiers don't die. Like, simple as. It's a very, you know, for them, it's a very simple concept. But, like, telling this to the American citizen, very unpalatable, right? The American citizen doesn't even know why Taiwan is important. right? They don't know that most of the chip manufacturing happens there, that some of the most important trade routes in the entire world go through there, that Japan is dependent on that, and then South Korea, you know, right? So, like, if Taiwan is lost, it would be the end for American hegemony. Like, literally the end of the American empire. And I assume that people noticed, okay, well, if Russia invades Ukraine and they manage to take it within a couple of weeks and we do nothing, that there is no reason why Russia and China wouldn't broker a deal so that they can invade Taiwan. And they probably, by stopping Russia from taking Ukraine, China probably backed down on its ambitions to take Taiwan as well, because there was a lot of build-up. If you guys remember, before the invasion of Ukraine, there was a lot of build-up, and Chairman Xi had like some strong speeches, and he was talking about the great unification and how anyone that tries to stop us is going to hit against the wall of China, which is formed by billions of people that are the Chinese citizens, and blah, blah, blah. Right? So this is the reason. This is why America is in Ukraine. And of course, you know, there's also other financial reasons. There's, you know, obviously, like, the weapons manufacturers want to manufacture weapons and so on and so forth. But overwhelmingly, I think, like, this is how the American politicians view things. Now, is this something that the American public would like? I don't know, right? But like, this is why politics is always done and like, telling the American people, oh, we're bringing freedom into this region, or we're trying to do this, and, you know, like, nice reasons, hearts and minds, basically. The empire is US, UK, VAT. Japan literally has it in its constitution that if Taiwan is attacked, that's an existential danger to Japan. Yeah, no. What Japan has in its constitution is that they can only deploy the military if Japan's existential existence is at threat, right? So they would consider that an invasion of Taiwan. Like, basically, if Taiwan would be under attack, it would be World War III, even if America doesn't want to get in. Because you would have India, Japan, South Korea, right? Like, it would be really bad for the world. Let's put it like this. Anyway, they would be in favor until it hits their pockets. Well, yeah, I mean, most people would probably not even understand. It's like, oh, why is the gas price soaring? Why is the inflation skyrocketing? Why, right? Like, the petrodollar would fall overnight. Which, by the way, it's already starting to buckle a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, the American citizen just doesn't understand how life would be if America wouldn't be the world hegemon.
I guess you could argue about it,
Yep.
but there isn't an argument about it in the United States. There's a position, and anyone who doesn't hold it is attacked and punished. Why? Why is that so important?
Well, the first thing I think we should all do is I think we should all give Putin credit for curing COVID, right?
No, this is a really good point. And I was talking about it, and there's people on Romanian television pointing it out. Literally, the moment that the war started, the mainstream media dropped COVID, right? So, like, a week before, I had to show a QR code to enter the mall. You had to show your papers, you had to show your documentation in order to sit down at a McDonald's. It's still mind-boggling for people today to think about, like, how things were, like how fascistic they were, that you had to show papers, right? Like showing ID to vote is racist, but showing QR code at McDonald's was positive for the ESG score. So, going from that all the way to, like, completely dropping it over fucking night. And why was it? Well, it was because, like, you had a lot of Ukrainian refugees that were coming in. And, of course, everyone in Romania supported them coming in. But, like, the problem would be, okay, so if I go to McDonald's, I have to show QR code. But when you have people coming from across the border, like, don't they have to show QR code? And if they would have to show QR code, then obviously the process of allowing them in would slow down. And, like, how do you even get a QR code when you're in a state of war, and so on and so forth? So because of that, at least the Romanian government immediately dropped it. They just flat out dropped it overnight. I don't know how it was in the United States and in other places of the world, but I think, like, mostly in the Eastern Europe, that was the case. It's like dealing with the Ukrainian refugees. And even if the Ukrainian refugees, like, once they get here, right, like, what do? Because like if you don't have a QR code, you can't go to a McDonald's. Where do you eat? You know, like you can't go to a hotel, you can't do anything, right? So the government overnight just dropped the nonsense.
Because when his invasion happened, COVID went away.
So thought about that.
US can build factories. If you're talking about like chips, it's very difficult because apparently you need to build the machines that build the machines that build the machines that build the chips. So it takes around 10 years to build a chip manufacturing company. The European Union has started to build some, but it's a very slow process.
Think about it. It's almost to the day. So we have to give him some credit at least for doing that. He may be the bad guy of the world, but at least he cured COVID for everybody nearly instantly.
Fair.
Thank you, President Putin. Yeah, I, up until this point, never really commented too heavily on politics.
Yes.
But I understand very well, I like to believe what's happening with Ukraine and Russia. And what I will say to the people who are watching this at home is that if you are naive enough to believe that there are good guys and bad guys in wars, and it's as simple as good and bad, and that the bad guys are crazy, and the good guys want freedom, then you need to do a little bit more investigation into what's really happening. And when you look at...
I think this will upset Ben Shapiro. I have a feeling. I genuinely haven't seen the React video, but I think like this analysis will upset Ben Shapiro a little bit.
The vested interest of any country or any person...
Can I just ask you to pause and just comment? That's the truest thing, what you just said. That is and anyone who doesn't understand that should shut the up. And I mean it. Having seen war, anyone who's telling you that it's Churchill versus Hitler is an idiot.
Like, oh, there we go. We got the cut in. We got to cut it. Like Ben Shapiro is going to be upset.
Okay, but even in Tucker's last statement, that everyone telling you that it's Churchill versus Hitler, but that was the case where you had an actual like evil person versus forces of good on one side. So Tate is making a global statement that there's never any conflict in which it's good versus evil, or in which one side is completely right and the other side is completely wrong. That it's all more complex than that. I think that's always true. I think there are certainly cases in which one side is right and the other side is wrong. I think that happens actually fairly frequently. Now, does that mean there isn't complexity to every war, or that the rationales that are presented to the public for war are the same as the rationales behind closed doors? No. But the kind of generalized moral relativism that is being expressed there is something with which I fully disagree. World War II was not a battle between two sides who had competitive but understandable versions of what was true. World War II was a battle between a fascist force that wished to wipe every Jew off the planet and a force that wished to preserve Western democracy and civilization. I mean, that
well, like the Soviet Union? I really disagree with this take. I genuinely do. I mean, the Allies committed many war atrocities. And that's the point, right? Like, the proposition is that there are no good guys, right? So everyone is fucked up. So that means that, yes, the Nazis were fucked up. Like, Tucker Carlson agrees with that take. But dropping 2 atomic bombs on civilian centers, is that what good guys do? I mean, I don't know, you know, but like, maybe there were other options, like starving them out, you know, making a blockade around Japan. I mean, surely you could have done different things that like, if any country would do in modern time what the US did to Japan, it would be considered unthinkable, especially if you're on the losing side. But then, okay, you can keep going. The bombing of Dresden. I can point out the Japanese, they had a really messed up, I think it's like Unit 304 or something like that. It was basically like doctors running experiments on prisoners of war in order to find out what happens if you freeze someone's hand and then put it on boiling water. How much trauma can a person take by being shot until they pass away? How long does it take for a human to freeze to death, right? Like all these things done on actual people. Like if you go Google and you look at it, like some of the most worst experiments ever done in human history. You know, like cutting up people alive and shit. And you know what the Americans did? They offered amnesty to those doctors in exchange for the results. I mean, they took Nazi prisoners of war and they took Nazi scientists and then hired them in the United States, changing their names, their identities, right? The treatment of war prisoners, right? Like they had, and you can go on Google and you can see this. After the war was over, they had German soldiers into rounded up in what would they call it? I guess you can call it camps, right? Like prison camps. But they were literally just barbed wire and nothing else, right? No shelter from the elements, no food given. Many of them passed away. These are atrocities. And yes, like there are no good people in war. War is one of the worst things that mankind has created. One of the most nasty and gruesome displays of violence, which desensitizes people from appreciating the sanctity of life. And atrocities and cruelties are created. So, yeah, I mean, no, literally, you cannot say, like, well, there's good guys and bad guys. No, life is not that simple. There's shades of gray. And by the way, usually it's up to the individual on the ground. But anyway, right, whatever.
That is what World War II was. The same thing happens to be true with regard to, for example, the Civil War. One side in the Civil War wanted to preserve slavery. The other side in the Civil War wanted to overrun slavery. Now,
again, like, this is not true. I refuse to believe that Ben Shappiro doesn't know that this is not the case. If you look at the history of the Civil War, why the fuck do I need to come from Romania to lecture Americans about the Civil War? It's fascinating. But if you look at the history of the Civil War, they don't even mention slavery for the first 2 years. The fuck are you talking about? Like, initially, it was about state rights. Only after, like, I think it's like after the first 2 years of fighting, do they even talk about slavery and whatnot. Like, do you honestly believe that, like, you go back in time all the way, and do you think, like, this was, like, a disagreement? Like, the average American in the North was upset that the American in the South that he has no contact with, doesn't even see his face. Like, oh, well, these Southern corporation and plantation owners, they have slaves. Well, I guess I need to pick up arms and fight against other people and risk my life. I mean, it doesn't, I wonder if people even today would do that. Like, I wonder if Ben Shappiro today, if he hears that there is, like, some African nation that still practices slavery or some place in the Middle East that practices slavery, would he pick up a gun and go there in order to abolish it? I mean, I feel like some people would, like, that there are definitely certain individuals that would be really upset with that, but, like, to believe that you could mobilize at what was at that point over, like, 30% of the population to go under arms, it's very difficult to believe. What determines good or bad side is the goal. Someone defending itself against an invasion almost always will be on the good side. That is a good point, actually, yes. Like, defending yourself against an invasion is always the good side. But it also matters, like, what exactly do you do? Like, there are certain... I guess, like, there are certain tactics that are considered acceptable and others that aren't. Don't forget the rape of Nanking and what the U.S. did to the prisoners of war at the Battle of Okinawa. It wasn't considered the bloodiest battle for nothing during the Pacific Theater. Yeah, I mean, but even then, right? Like, if you say, okay, so if you defend yourself, then you're in the right. I mean, okay, so the United States gets Pearl Harbor, right? Just that's a flat-out war crime. Like, there was no declaration of war. Civilians were struck, right? But if your response is to nuke two cities, again, I will say there are no good guys. I would say that, yes, in war, there is no, like, the good and the bad. It's shades of gray all over. And even then, right, like, the reason for going to war is something that's completely different than what's being told to the public. Like, for example, World War I was, like, the sinking of, what was the name of the boat? Louisiana, right? They didn't go to war because, like, that was the pretext, right? Like, that's what you tell the soldiers. But the reason they went to war was economical. So, yeah, it is what it is.
Is there more complexity than that? Yeah, sure, there's more complexity than that, but the overall narrative is not false. And what I see here is
and by the way, like, as far as I know, the Americans didn't go to war in World War II because, like, they wanted to save the Jewish people. Like, the reason for World War II was Pearl Harbor, right? Like up until that point, they didn't say, oh, well, like, the Germans are exterminating Jewish people, so we need to join it. No, it was Pearl Harbor. Like, and even if it would be interesting to see how it would have played out if the Nazis weren't allied with the Japanese. Because chances are they would probably not even declare war on them. So it is. I wouldn't say historical revisionism, but it's like there has been like so many movies and so much pop culture surrounding this event that it's kind of like accepted now. But like when you actually read history and you actually read the treaties and what people said and the speeches that they gave, at no point, especially for the first 2 years of war, it's even mentioned that we need to do this because otherwise the Nazis are exterminating the whole Jewish population. Like they use that as a way to attract more Jewish people to join the military, but again, like the main reason was Pearl Harbor. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. You know, like isn't this like what's even being published in the Americans' books, like in the history books, what you learned in school? Well, this is what I learned here. You know.
That complexity, the scales of gray are being used to eliminate the colors black and white. Now, if you want to say that there is gray to the picture, that's fair. That's fine. I mean, there's gray to World War II also. There's the phony war that occurred when the West seemed to be wanting to appease Hitler, right? There's a lot of stuff happening in the lead up to any war. But in the end of the day, if you're deciding which side you want to side with, a moral component does exist, and eliminating that moral component is, I think, a mistake and a straw man.
You've said depression isn't real, or it's not, as the way we describe depression isn't.
This is a very sensitive topic for the left. Like whenever you talk about depression, oh my fucking god, oh my, and I think like one of the reasons for it is that a lot of leftists, they suffer from depression and they want the victim box, right? Because like, oh my god, you're depressed. Oh, let me give you a hug. You know, because like when someone says they're depressed, especially online, they're treated as if they have a broken arm or something and they need validation, they need cuddles, they need hugs. And if you're going to attack that and you're going to say that you don't care about depression, you're basically robbing them from the attention that they get online. So whatever Tate responds to this is going to upset a lot of people.
Accurate. What do you think of depression?
When I say depression isn't real, that really upset the world, especially the liberals, because they all live on medication, right? When I say depression isn't real, I'm saying that because I don't believe in things that can take away power from me. If I believed in depression, I would have been depressed in jail. But I can't be depressed if I don't believe in it. If you don't believe in ghosts, how can you be haunted? You have two people in a haunted house. One believes in ghosts, one doesn't. There's a knock in the night. One wakes up, calls an exorcist, is terrified, looks for a ghost. The other guy doesn't believe in ghosts. Knock in the night, goes back to sleep. It's the belief in the ghost.
Yeah, okay, so basically what he is saying is that this is how he copes with depression, right? Like, this is how... It's kind of like, you know, in Karate Kid, where it's like, pain doesn't exist in this dojo. It's not that, like, pain doesn't exist if you get punched. It's like, they try to have, like, this mind over matter type of thing. Like, they try to impose to themselves that they're not in pain so that they can keep on fighting. It's kind of the same here. Obviously, like, depression is a thing. And it can also trigger from hormonal imbalances, medication. It's not just testosterone, but like there's many other hormones that can cause depression in a person. And by the way, depression doesn't necessarily mean that you're sad that you have the gloomies. Depression can literally mean that nothing makes you happy anymore. Like it's very difficult to imagine. But think about it this way. What makes you happy? I don't know, like seeing some plump anime titties, right? And that makes you happy. But like one day you wake up and you see those plump anime titties and you feel nothing. Like literally nothing, you know? Maybe you like race driving. And you're like enjoying how it is to drive a car at 100 miles per hour. You enjoy the feeling of your win. But one day you do the same thing and you just feel nothing. It doesn't make you happy. It doesn't make you excited. You're just numb to it. You're bored. Right? Like, literally, that's what it is. So, like, when you're actually suffering from legit depression, everything that you do doesn't bring happiness anymore. Everything bores you. But best example would be, remember when you were a kid and you were playing hide and seek, and you were, like, really excited about it, and you are happy? Imagine if you played hide and seek now, right? Like, it's boring. It's not intellectually stimulating. It's not a game that you have fun, right? It's something for kids. But when you're a child, you enjoy that. Now you don't. It's kind of the same, but apply it to literally everything else. Like nothing. You listen to your favorite band, and it's bland. You don't get anything. You play a video game and it's bland. You don't expect. That's depression, and actual depression is really nasty because like, why do you even get out of bed then? Like the food isn't tasty. You don't want to have sex. You don't want to. You have no hobbies. You don't even enjoy talking to people, right? So, you love race car driving, but imagine what would happen if one day you stop. Like you're in your race car, you're doing your thing, and you feel nothing. Like you don't feel happy, you don't feel excited. It's like doing a chore. It's like boring and mundane, right? How do I know that? Well, good question. But that's what actual depression is like. It's not about like, oh, I'm having the sad, I'm having the gloomies. Like life is so bad. No, that's not depression. Okay, that's being a whiny bitch on Twitter. Like actual depression is how I described it. Now, in the case of Andrew Tate, like he is saying that there is no depression, so that when he gets depressed, he has a reason in order to like snap himself out of it. And by the way, like there is like depression for psychological reasons. Like for example, you're locked up in a Romanian prison, so in that situation, yeah, like nothing is fun anymore because you can't take your mind off of the fact that you're locked up in a Romanian prison. So if you will yourself, you're like, no, I'm going to not allow myself to feel despair and whatnot, then maybe that can work for you, right? But then there's also the depression that comes from hormonal imbalance. Like you may have... I think like diabetes even can give you certain symptoms. But anyway, right. In my opinion, from Doc, FDR knew the attack was coming and wanted to join the war, but let mainstream tell you that it was faulty information and wasn't the trust source. Yeah, I heard actually this controversy discussed many times. Unfortunately, I can't verify or deny it. I guess like most historians disagree with it. But there are some historians which agree with what you said, so yeah. V is a better psychiatrist than Kermit. Well, I appreciate that.
That gives it the power. If I don't believe in depression, I believe in feeling depressed. Sure, we're humans, we have emotions. Sometimes we feel depressed, sometimes we feel happy. I don't believe in the idea of becoming a depressed person who has depression. I don't believe in that. I don't think that's possible for me. So if I don't believe in it, how can it happen?
Yeah, but this is another thing, right? Like, if he's speaking from his own experience, he can't possibly be debunked. Like if I say like for me, I cannot be sad. I get sad a little bit, but like or I can say like I don't feel the need of crying. Like I don't believe in crying, right? But if I'm talking about me personally, I do not say that other people can't feel that way. I do not feel that other people can't feel sad or cry. But like I'm just talking about myself. And yet when you talk about yourself, you upset people on Twitter. I never understand that. It's like, why are people so concerned about how he personally wants to live his life? If he believes that depression doesn't exist for him, then what's the problem?
Okay, again, I think that's spoken to somebody who doesn't have depression. So I don't have depression either, but there are certainly people who are manic depressives, right? That's an actual mental condition where people go from absolute mania to absolute depression. Now, one of the things that he is saying that I generally agree with is that very often, depression should be overcome with cognitive behavioral therapy, right? That's actually what he's talking about there, is where you say, listen, my chain of thought here is wrong, and so I'm going to correct that chain of thought. But the idea that depression just overall doesn't exist if you ignore it, for some people, it pretty clearly does. And sometimes it's caused by, tragic life events, and sometimes it's caused by actual brain issues. But to kind of dismiss wholesale...
Yeah, but like, again, he is not dismissing, at least from what he said, I don't think that he is dismissing that other people can experience it. He's just saying that from his personal thing. And again, like, as someone in the chat pointed out, like, he's a kickboxer, right? Like, as a kickboxer, you have to have mind over matter. Like, you are in pain, but you need to think that I'm not experiencing any pain so that I can keep on fighting. Like this is a worldview where you can train yourself in order to overcome, like, what your body throws at you.
And that's also exasperated by the fact that I think the sexual marketplace has become globalized. This is the thing I say to young men. A lot of men come to me with problems, and my only answer to...
Oh, so basically he's talking about what I've been saying, but for some reason, like, the Matrix is not after me. I've been saying that the dating apps is what's the problem with modern dating, right? But he expressed it in a different way, so let's hear it.
Them is masculine excellence. I say that in the world we live in today, being a normal man or below normal is going to be terrible. You have to be an exceptional man because the sexual marketplace, especially, even if you just want to find a wife, is globalized. If you, in 1955, if you met the hot girl in the Nebraskan town, she was the hot girl in the Nebraskan town. If you meet her today, she's being offered to go to Courchevel and go skiing in France, and she's being offered to fly to Dubai.
Yeah, because of dating apps. Like, dating apps collect people throughout the whole world. So now you're not competing with the town of Nebraska, as you say. You're competing with the entire fucking world. But it's not only that. Obviously, you know, like, the hot girl in Nebraska is the most sought after. But, like, even the average girl in Nebraska, like the average girl in your school, well, she's being sought after by the entire town of Nebraska because of the dating apps. And I never understood, like, how to frame this, because I keep seeing in the comment section people say, well, don't use dating apps. It's like, that's not the fucking point. She is using dating apps. She, her. Which means that if you're at school with her and you like her, well, you're just one of the tens of thousands of other dudes that like her. Can you compete with all of them? Well, I hope you can, because otherwise, you're not getting any. And it's not about sex, by the way. It's about companionship. You know, you're going to go into the park and you're going to see everyone holding hands and being happy and having a date. And you're going to be wondering, like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I do that? You know, am I defective? Have I done something wrong? Right? And there is no one to help you. There's no one to give you advice. There's no one to tell you how to behave. In fact, most of the advice is negative. But anyway, moving on.
And there's millionaires who can just fly her anywhere and give her anything she wants. And who are you? Right? It's getting harder and harder as a man to even find the most basic human function of reproduction.
If she's on a dating app, I'm not going to bother. By the way, I'm not just saying, like, dating app as in Tinder and stuff. Like, if she has a online profile, like if she's got Facebook, if she's got Instagram, if she's got, like, any type of social media, she's going to already have, like, a lot of men that are competing for her attention. And you gotta outcompete that. Now, again, this didn't happen 20 years ago. I'm not saying that this should stop. But it is one of the reasons why depression is rising amongst young men. Because women do actually have unrealistic expectations from men. Right? Like the whole feminism, like, men have unrealistic expectations from women. Get the fuck out. You know, like, no one is reading comic books and is expecting every woman to be the next Supergirl. Like, sure, when they're reading comic books and they're seeing the new She-Hulk, they're going to go, well, I would rather go to manga because, you know, like, they're comparing fiction to fiction. But when you look at what women like, and there's multiple polls and studies, and dating apps have done this, well, they want a very tall individual that makes around $200,000 to $300,000 a year, very intelligent, bright, charismatic, right? So basically, like, some of the top 5% of men on Earth. And all the women want those. And it's like, well, it's a little bit imbalanced, isn't it? Like, that is an unrealistic expectation.
Even to just find a woman you can reproduce with, it's becoming more and more difficult. You also couple that with the fact that they've destroyed morality in women also. So when you destroy the morality in men and you destroy how a man should act, and then you destroy how a woman should act, you're both going in the opposite direction. Most women out there are very happy to share a man who's just rich and famous, and they don't care.
It's
right. So if you're the normal guy, you know, there's this rich famous guy with 30 girls. That's 29 dudes who are...
Yeah, so if Andrew Tate's advice is to be an excellent in masculinity, then yeah, that's true. Like, it is true. Like, if you're just average, it's not enough, right? Like, the standard has been raised. So, what can you do? The best way to explain that the standard has been raised is to go to a woman and ask her, like, what do you want in a man? You know, and she's going to say, well, I want him to be tall. I want him to have his own place, drive his own car, have his own job, earn like $200,000 a year. And then the next question is like, okay, but does your father fit that criteria? And overwhelmingly, like, most of the time, it's no. Right? So it's like, why can't you be more humble like your mom? And the reason is that, well, the standards have raised. And this is bad for women as well, because, again, like, if you are competing for the top 5% of men. Like, imagine if everyone on Earth would try to apply to Google, right? Obviously, not everyone will get the job. And if you, like, refuse to get any other job, like, you're like, no, I want to work at Google, period. No other company is good for me. I don't think I fit anywhere else. You're going to end up unemployed, right? Because when you're young, it's a lot easier to get an entry-level job. But when you're in your 40s, no one is going to hire you at entry level, right? Like, people already expect that you have some experience. Because you don't have the same energy, the same drive, the same charisma you used to have when you're a kid. It's the same with dating, right? Like if you just flat out refuse to date when you're young and you know, you have these unrealistic standards, like maybe, again, like you go for like the top 5% of men, but the guy you like doesn't want a relationship with you, you know, he's just like fuck zoning you, and he's willing to have sex, but he doesn't want anything more than that because he's got like many other women that he can spend time with. But you're wasting your youth just, you know, following these type of men that only do one night stands, and they don't want to commit, and they don't want to have a relationship or anything. Like, you're not even willing to look to the average guy, you know, you just go for the top, for the creme de la creme. Well, the problem is, like, other women are going for the same guys you are, right? So eventually, chances are, like, statistically speaking, you're not going to get it. And you're going to end up being, well, at a certain age where you can't get anyone. So, like, what I'm trying to say is that the dating market is ruined for men and women. It's not just like men that are suffering. Women are suffering too. If you look at female depression, it's on the rise.
We're lonely, and they end up watching porn. And if you have a porn addiction,
what Tate is saying now is what Peterson said a couple of years ago in his lecture. This is why I'm saying, like, nothing that Tate is saying is like things that have never been said before, or things that are completely groundbreaking. They're not wrong. But they're not, again, like, it's not that it's like 100% his opinions and his ideas that he's coming up with. Like, I have heard these things before from other speakers.
or you have a problem with porn, you have a problem with yourself. Because I guarantee if you were the kind of man you're supposed to be, you would have no time for that. And you wouldn't need it.
Okay, so
is this a personal attack at me? Is it, anyway, right, so that's my take on it. It was a very interesting interview. But I just do not see the things that he said to be things that no one else has said, basically, right? Like, everything that Tate says, I have heard it before. I don't agree with the solutions, right? Like, I do think that marriage and starting your own family is the path to happiness. But, you know, like, it's interesting, like, Tate goes after porn when, like, doesn't he have an entire business that's dedicated on getting women online? And but, you know, like, I suppose, like, the person making the drug can criticize the junkie, you know? I mean, it can happen, I guess. Anyway, right, I'll see you guys later. I'm gonna go make the videos for my other channels now. Thank you for the super chats, and hopefully I managed to entertain you a little bit. Take care.